So, what if I told you there is a method backed by science, that could actually help you completely, reverse type 2 diabetes? A method that doesn't rely on expensive medications or invasive procedures, but instead that taps into your natural power, your body's own biology.
Yeah, as we all know, millions of people struggle with type 2 diabetes every single day, feeling trapped by blood sugar spikes, insulin resistance, and constant medications. But what if there is a way out? Today, we are talking about intermittent fasting, a simple yet powerful tool that's changing lives and rewriting the narrative on diabetes management.
Oh, come on, man. Rewriting the narratives on diabetes management, right? So you're going to have to stick with us as we break down how intermittent fasting works, the science behind it, and its incredible benefits, and how you can actually use it to take control of your own health. So this could be a very life-changing episode, and we hope that you stick with us as we move forward right now. Follow. All right, we are back on the live, and we want to welcome you back. And the first thing we're going to be talking about is how intermittent fasting actually works, right? How you may have heard it. Now we're going to tell you that it actually helps reverse long-standing diabetes, type 2 diabetes in this case. Long-standing. People thought that it has to be within the first few years, but no, studies have shown that it could be long-standing diabetes that you are going to be able to reverse with, intermittent fasting. And so we want to first talk about how it works, the way it actually works, and then from there we'll go to other areas. So stick with us. So with that, we are going to talk about how it regulates your blood sugar.
Okay,
How does?
somebody may even ask, what is intermittent fasting?
Okay.
What does it mean? So intermittently, you fast. You are not going to wake up in the morning and you start eating as soon as you get out from bed, and you eat throughout the day till the time that you are about
Till
to
you
go
drop,
back
eat till you drop, right?
to
Come on.
bed. So intermittently, how can you do it in such a way that you are not eating throughout the day? You have specific time in the day that you eat and specific time that you are going to fast. As we all know, when we sleep, we are fasting. When you wake up is, and some people even wake up at night and eat.
You wake up to eat, yeah.
Yeah, so we have to understand what intermittent fasting is. So fasting intermittently.
All right. So with that out of the way, what are some of the ways that intermittent fasting helps or works? How does it even work? To the extent that we are boldly saying that you can use it to reverse type 2 diabetes if you have it. Okay. A few things we're going to talk about. The first thing is it helps regulate your blood sugar levels. You want to start with that?
Yeah, so when you fast, because you don't eat, less sugar is dumped into your bloodstream, right? Because you are not pounding down the calories throughout the day. Because you are fasting, less sugar is released into your bloodstream. And if less sugar is released, it means that your levels are, well,
Stable.
stable. They are at the same level because you are not eating anymore. And when you're not eating, you can get your glucose from glycogen, which is the stored fat in your liver and your muscles. So that releases slowly into your bloodstream, and that stabilizes your blood sugar level. So fasting help stabilize your blood sugar level.
It makes a lot of sense because if you are not putting in glucose, then there's not going to be glucose, going up the roof, right? So that is why intermittent fasting helps regulate your blood sugar levels. And as she said, yeah, you may say that, but if I don't eat, how am I going to survive? I can stand hunger. Yeah, but if you have, everybody has some stores of glycogen in their liver and their muscles, and that is where your body is going to, depend on for your energy. So don't be scared. We are going to teach you how to do intermittent fasting as we go forward. But the key thing is that when fasting doesn't kill, unless
Sure.
extremely, yeah, it doesn't kill. It's going to help you, and your energy source would be the stored glucose in your liver, and in your muscles. And so your glucose becomes stable. That's the key that she mentioned. The other thing is that because you're not eating and being hungry, like you eat and there's no food and no food, there's also going to be less sugar spikes. Your blood sugar is not going to spike up or lead to a crisis, because you basically have your what we call basal insulin release. Your body has released some level of insulin, small amount, that makes sure that your sugar levels are on point. But if you are eating throughout the day, the moment you eat, sugar spikes. And especially when you eat the kinds of foods that we told you shouldn't eat, the refined carbohydrates and sugars, processed foods and stuff like that, then your sugars are going to be spiking and crashing, spiking, going up, crashing, going down when the food is completely gone. So intermittent fasting helps prevent the spikes as well as the crashes that usually happens when you are eating throughout the day. And so it is important to note that when you are not eating, when you are fasting, during those times you are fasting, you are actually stabilizing your blood sugar levels. I'm going to go to the next one.
Yeah, and the second one that we want to talk about is intermittent fasting improve your insulin sensitivity. You become more sensitive. The little that you're producing is able to act on the glucose, right? Right away. So lower insulin levels as you fast help your insulin levels naturally drop because there is no incoming glucose to process. And because there is no incoming glucose to process, the levels are lowered.
Going to be dropping, right?
The insulin naturally drops because you are not pounding your system with a lot of glucose. So as you keep doing this, the cells become more responsive to the insulin over time, reversing insulin resistance. So that's the trick that you can adapt. You don't want to, because you're fasting, you are producing less insulin. And because less insulin is produced, it becomes more sensitive. More sensitive when you eat.
Definitely. So it's a trick you are tricking your body to do. So yes, we know that insulin resistance is a hallmark of type 2 diabetes, right? Insulin resistance, everybody that has insulin resistance, most people eventually develop type 2 diabetes. And as you may have recognized, we have said that resistance actually develops when you have too much of one thing coming. No, I always use that simple analogy of using antibiotics. If you use antibiotics or antibiotics too many times, that your bacteria doesn't work. I mean, the antibiotics that doesn't work on the bacteria anymore, infections anymore, because they've seen it over and over and over. But here in this analogy, when you come to diabetes or type 2 diabetes, when you are not eating, because you are not eating all the time, what happens is less insulin is released. And then because less is released, the little that is released becomes very responsive. Your body responds to it because it's not like too much running around. You're not eating so much around, at least for those specific times that you are fasting. And so that is how your sugars your insulin become very sensitive, and eventually you can reverse type 2 diabetes, right?
Yep.
So the other thing is also that when you are fasting, fasting triggers process called autophagy. There's actually two processes: autophagy and mitophagy, I should say. Big words, but all that they mean is that when you are fasting, your body is able to clean up its cells. So if you have damaged cells or damaged proteins, which are running around, which could cause problems, inflammation. What happens is, because you are fasting, what happens is your body cleans up its own cells. It cleans up the proteins that are not required, that are damaged, and it improves your insulin receptors, thereby increasing the sensitivity of insulin. So two things, because less is being produced, you have increased sensitivity to your insulin. And the next thing is that because less insulin is being produced, your body is able to, clean up the mess that is already occurring in you, so that you become more sensitive to the insulin. And that is a key thing that also helps with insulin sensitivity. And of course, I also mentioned mitophagy, which is basically helping your mitochondria, which is the energy processing unit of our bodies, either to also clean up and also make more better mitochondria so that you can metabolize your food or your glucose or whatever energy sources you're using very well, all because you are not eating around the clock all the time. So it's very important that we actually take this serious. So insulin sensitivity and glucose regulation. Now let's go to the third benefit.
So before that, you can put it in a simple way. You are giving your body a break, right?
Giving
So
it a
the
break.
constant pounding of calories and glucose into your system, you give your body a break.
A break.
And because you've given your body a break, the cells repairs and replenish itself so that it can work more effectively. You are not overworking the cells. So giving your body a break will help your system and the insulin to become more sensitive.
Right. Let's go to the next, the third point, or the third way. Intermittent fasting help reverse that type 2 diabetes is it helps you burn fat, excess fat. Fat is involved in, again, insulin resistance. People who have excess fat buildup not only gain weight, but they also have problems with their sugars, right? Their blood glucose. And so the third point is that intermittent fasting helps you burn fat. And the way it is that the fat stores in you, as we alluded to, the energy stores in you, as we alluded to, like glycogen, becomes used as you fast. Like for the first day, you may have fat stores, all right, but then you start off, or your body starts using the glycogen, the stores of glucose in your liver, as well as in your muscles. So, for instance, you didn't eat for some period today or tomorrow, you didn't eat between some hours of the day, you didn't eat. Because your body still needs energy to be able to do all the things you have to do, it will begin to use and process the glycogen stores in your liver as well as in your muscles. And then the following day you do it, it goes ahead and uses the remaining glycogen. For some people, it will take a few days. For some people, it will even take, weeks just to use up all the stores of energy in their liver and in their muscles. But eventually, you are going to deplete those energy stores. Eventually, all those glycogens are going to be gone. And when they are gone, then your body turns into a new source of energy, which is the stored fat around the belly, around all the organs that we call them visceral fat. The fat that is very dangerous, around your pancreas, even fat in your liver itself, fat in every other part of your body that shouldn't be there because you are fasting or you're not eating throughout the day, I should say, because somebody may think that fasting, so you don't eat. No, you eat, but we're going to explain how you do it. So just stick with that. But because you're not eating throughout the day, your body begins to use the fat after finishing the glycogen. And then you actually enter into what we call ketosis. This is what some people call keto diet and all that. This is where it comes in. Because you are not eating frequently and your body has finished using the glycogen stores from your liver and from your muscles, now it is using the fat. So you enter into the process we call ketosis. And this helps reduce the visceral fat, the dangerous fat that we talk about, which are around your organs, especially, around your waist area, leading to metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, high blood pressure, and all those obesity that we have. So I don't know how else to stress the importance of this one. You want to say anything that?
Yeah. So I think we should move on to the next one, right?
Okay.
So fasting also lower insulin, as we've mentioned already, but there is a hormone that you tend to produce that controls glucose, right? So these hormones tend to act on this fat that that has been stored.
You are talking about insulin. Don't hide it. Yeah, the first one is insulin, right?
Yeah.
Because when you eat, insulin causes you to store fat. So that's the first one, right?
Yeah. So if less insulin is produced, then it's likely that you're not going to produce. I think I don't know the point there. By keeping insulin low for extended period of time, your body become more efficient and breaking down the stored fats, like you've mentioned. Yeah, so it's very good idea to lower the production of insulin. So as less insulin is produced,
Which is because you are not eating around the clock.
Yeah.
Because you are not eating around the clock, insulin is not produced, right? And if you eat around the clock, you are producing more insulin. And what insulin does is a point that the first point you're trying to make is that it makes you store fat. Remember, we're talking about burning fat, right? So the first one is we have used up all your glycogen, all your stores in your liver and your muscles. Now your body has turned into your stored fat and burning it.
Okay.
The other thing is because you are not also eating around the clock, you are not you're not producing insulin. Okay. Because when you eat, that's when insulin is released. And the action of insulin is to also pick up more fat.
Okay.
So if you're not eating, you are not producing fat, you are not storing fat. And also because you are not producing insulin, right? You're not producing insulin, and if you're not producing insulin, you are not storing fat. Your body is not picking up fat or making fat because you are not producing more insulin. So two ways.
Okay, so I think this is the idea that people that practice keto diet
the keto diet,
use. So because they think that if you eat glucose or sugar or carbohydrates, you produce insulin. And if you produce more insulin, then it's likely that you are going to
Store more
fat. So in order to get away from storing fat, then you don't eat glucose at all.
At all.
That's why they don't eat carbohydrates. That's why they stick with the fats and the proteins.
Right.
So what can you do so that you don't produce a lot of insulin that will make you fat? By cutting down on the amount of glucose that you take in.
And that is where intermittent fasting comes in.
Yeah.
So if you have a window in the day that you are not eating, all that period, you are not putting in anything. And if you're not putting in anything, then there's no glucose going to be produced.
Right.
And if glucose is not going to be produced, no fat will be absorbed or no fat is going to be made or stored. Right? And so you begin to burn. And plus the earlier point that I also described, that because you're also not eating as much, the stores of your own fat are also going to be burned, depleted. They are going to be used for your own energy. So you are burning it, and then because insulin is not being produced, you're not also storing it.
Right.
So what it leads to is eventually you're going to lose weight, which is good, and then also we have already also explained that the fact that it's also going to make the little insulin you produce also more sensitive. It sounds complicated, but we want to make sure that we prove our point. So when you decide to do intermittent fasting, you're not going to say that, we just said it and you do it. It makes a lot of sense. And as a matter of fact, because of time, but we have studies. If you go to the medical journals, there are studies that are proving our point that intermittent fasting can reverse diabetes, type 2 diabetes, not just for people who just got it, pre-diabetes and people who had it for 6 years. No, even people who have had it longer than 6 years. Studies show that if you can stick to it, within a specific window of the day, you are going to be able to reverse your condition if you stick to it long enough.
Right.
That's the key.
So you were saying that fasting doesn't really hurt. It doesn't kill, right?
No.
So when you get to the point that you are so hungry and you're like, no, I drop everything. Just think about the importance,
the benefits
that you get from doing this intermittent fasting.
Definitely.
It help replenish your body.
Definitely. Now let's go to the fourth benefit. Seems like we are running, but we got to because we have a lot to cover. So if you are watching, make sure you hit the like and the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Wherever you are watching us from, we want to make sure that you follow us if it's on any of those platforms where you follow. On some platforms, you have to hit follow. Some platforms, you have to hit the subscribe. Wherever it is, just make sure that you hit those buttons so that we can also share this with other people. And you also receive our notifications whenever we go live. All right, so the next point is the fourth point. The benefit of intermittent fasting is it helps with hormonal balance and also reduces inflammation. We want to start with that.
Yeah, I think that was what I was trying to get earlier.
Okay.
So this hormonal balance, we have these hormones called the leptin and ghrelin. So these hormones tend to give you the craving. You want to eat high carbohydrates, high level of carbohydrates and sugary foods. You crave for them. because your body, if you keep eating carbohydrates over a long period of time, you produce these hormones, and these hormones urge you want
To get more.
you want more and more every day. You
Yes.
wake up in the morning and you are craving for carbohydrates. You are craving for white starchy foods. It's not you,
It's not you.
your body producing these hormones.
Come on, it's you too. It's also you for a little bit because you
Yeah.
like it. Yeah.
So if you do this intermittent fasting, you reduce, overeating and the cravings of high carbohydrates and sugary foods that can worsen blood sugar levels. So you want to minimize these hormones, because if the cravings are so much, you can't control yourself. That's why they are like, oh, it's the willpower. It's not really willpower. It's something. It's the hormones that you're producing that is making you crave for unhealthy foods. So we are encouraging you that intermittent fasting reduce the production of these hormones that can help you control yourself and eat the right foods that we talked about last week.
That's a good one. So intermittent fasting will help you reduce the appetite hormones. I'll call them appetite hormones, so that you reduce your cravings, right? The leptin and the ghrelin. Intermittent fasting. Now, in the beginning, you may feel, if you have fasted before, we are in a fast from church, right? And in the beginning, it was hard. Why? Because your body is used to all these foods that you eat around some time. And then the leptin and ghrelin also kicked in and said, hey, come on, man, you got to eat this, you got to eat that. But if you are disciplined enough to say no at those initial stages, trust me, it's not easy. But if you are disciplined enough to say no at those initial stages, the leptin becomes low. They're all going to quiet down. And then you get the hang of it. So you'll be able to go through your fasting easily. And again, we're going to talk to you about how the fastings are. So it's not like any fasting. We're going to show you a few examples of those fastings that have been proven to be helpful to diabetics. So the other thing is that high blood sugar and insulin resistance are also associated with inflammation. So if you are also fasting and around some time or within some window of the day you are not eating, your insulin, because your insulin is less, you are also going to reduce the inflammatory markers. All the things that lead to inflammation are also going to quiet down because of less insulin resistance, which is associated with high sugar levels. If you are not increasing your sugar levels, your inflammation is also going to go down. Inflammation, including even leading to atherosclerosis, cholesterol plaques, and joint pain. Yes,
Joints pain.
they are all part of it. They are all going to reduce. If you have been fighting with joint pain for a long time, try intermittent fasting. Excuse me. It may not go away completely, but it will reduce depending on how bad your sugar levels are. So that is another thing that we need to talk about. You want to take over for it?
Yeah, so let's talk about water.
I have one. Go ahead.
So let's talk about the types of intermittent fasting. So now we've learned about the importance of intermittent fasting. Your insulin becomes sensitive, right? You are able to control your cravings. You are able to,
Burn fat.
burn fat, lose weight, be
There's
able to
tons of
manage
benefit.
your weight. And if you are diabetic, your sugar levels, you can see the difference. So what type of intermittent fasting work best for you? So the first one that we want to talk about, that method is 16 by 8, right? So you fast for 16 hours and you eat for within
Can't forget, don't say for 8 hours.
within 8 hours, So let's say maybe from 12 o'clock to 8 p.m. is when you start eating. So you break your fast at 12 at noon. You don't get up at 7 o'clock and you start eating. You continue the fast from the overnight, the previous night. Then you eat your breakfast at 12. And I think we have to mention that the kinds of foods that you eat is also important. It's not like because you are doing intermittent fasting, you can eat anything and you can do it anyhow. The choice of foods is also important. So if your schedule is such that you sleep a little late, you don't wake up early, then this can be something that you can adapt. You start eating at 12, and by 8 o'clock, you're done. After 8, you don't eat
Don't eat
anymore. It doesn't matter how good the smell of food is coming in the house, or how
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 tempting it
much
is.
you're craving for extra and all that. You know that by 8 o'clock, you don't eat.
You don't eat.
You don't eat after 8 o'clock. That's the 16 by 8. So time restricted eating. You know that if it's not 12 o'clock, it's not time for me
not
to
time to
eat
eat yet.
first.
So you always basically fast until 12.
Yes,
And then
every
you
day.
eat from 12, between 12 and
And
8.
8.
We got to be careful, because if you don't take care, somebody will eat all throughout, because
Yeah,
they say
because
that
it's
that's
the 8
it's
hours.
8 hours. No, you can still do your 2 meal per day, or 3 meals even within that 8 hours. The thing is, don't remember the 8 hours you didn't eat so much when you start eating. Yeah, don't let that get to your head and say that, oh, uh, I didn't eat for 8 hours, so it's time to eat. Let me just make sure that I make it all up. No, that doesn't work. You defeat the purpose, because you are telling your body you are going to eat at 12, or whatever time that 8 hour window starts. You make sure that you stick to still eating within normal eating, frequency, like 3 times a day, if that's how you are used to, or maybe even twice. You eat at 12, and maybe around the 8 hour, at 8 o'clock time, you also eat, and that's it. And if you consistently do it, the key is consistency. If you consistently do it, for some people they may be doing it in some way, but they're not just they are not consistent. Some people, they don't eat. Naturally they are like, I'm not a morning eater. I don't eat
breakfast.
I don't eat breakfast. So all you do is you just stick to that, but make sure that you also cut off the time that you're eating, and you'll be good. So you eat from 12. Make sure that by 8 you don't eat anymore. All you do is drink water. And that will make for a difference. Trust me, it will work. Studies have shown it, right? It will work. The other thing is maybe 10 by
14 by 10.
14 by 10, which is also similar to regular schedule for a lot of people. So instead of eating within the 8 hour window, this time you're eating within 10 hour window.
Right.
And it will still work. The key is to be disciplined enough to stick to that schedule that you do,
So that can be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
as long as it's within 10 hours.
Right.
Not every hour. Please don't take it like
So by 6 o'clock, you are done
you
for
are
the
done
day.
for the day. You don't eat anymore. And that, trust me, it will work. If you stick to it long enough, it will work. As long as you're eating the right foods too, you are going to make it. And it's going to help you reverse your diabetes or your sugar levels. In fact, some people use it to lose weight, and some people use it to overcome hypertension. It will work across the board for everything that you want to do. So that is something that we have to take a serious and maybe focus on more. All right. So we're going to go to the next one. The next one is what?
5 by 2.
5 by 2. Okay.
So you
Explain.
eat normally for 5 days of the week, and you reduce the amount of calorie that you take, or the amount of food that you take in 2 days. Okay, so the 2 days is such that you don't do it back to back. So it's not like you're going to fast Sunday and Monday,
and then
then
eat the
you
rest.
eat throughout the day, the rest of the week. But it shouldn't be so you can do one fast on Sunday, then maybe Wednesday or Thursday you do the second one.
Fast.
And when you're doing it the whole day, you don't eat anything. So the only amount of food that you eat is very small, that you go to bed. So we are saying that up to, you don't exceed more than 600 calories,
right?
in that day that you fast. But the rest of the 5 days, you eat normally and you make the right choices. So if you do this consistently, then you can see that things are changing. You're losing weight, and your A1C and your insulin sensitivity will definitely improve.
My goodness, my goodness. So that's that's an easy one, I think.
Easy one, yeah.
Yeah, you eat for 5 days of the week, and the 2 days, as long as she said it's not back to back, you don't eat. eat, a maximum of 600 calories for those 2 days. Most people can do this.
Right.
And if you repeat this over, just say this whole year, if you're able to do that for a year, 2 days of fasting, not back to back, to make it easier too, actually. If you did it back to back, it may actually be more stressful on you. But if you, like she said, you did it on Monday and on Wednesday, or Monday and Thursday, the other days you eat your regular healthy food. Don't say that, oh, but those 2 days I don't eat, I got to make it up. No, you eat your regularly scheduled healthy foods. If you want to know the healthy foods, make sure you go back to our last video and check them out, because you can use that also to reverse diabetes and high blood sugar. So you are using that on top of this one, then you are going to get the reverse as quickly as possible. So it is important that we do it like that. 2 days off, 5 days on, I should say, right?
Maybe on your off days.
Yeah, you could do it on your off days. You could do your fast on your off days, but I would rather do it on my work days, right? Because you are distracted. On your off days, when maybe you need to go out with your husband, you need to cook for a family and stuff, it may be difficult
for you to do.
to fast. But when you are working, you'll be distracted, especially if you're in a high-paced work. Before you know, the day is over and you didn't eat anything. You just come home and you break your fast, and then you're all done. You go to the next day. So that is a good one. So 5 by 2, 16 by 8, and then 14 by 10. Several kinds that all help. Let's go to the next one.
So the next one, which one is the next one?
This one is an alternate day fasting.
Yeah. So you alternate days of regular eating and days of fasting, or very low calorie intake. So
every other day.
Every other day. So you eat normally today, then the next day you cut down on the calorie, the amount of carbohydrates that you eat, the amount of food that you take. You cut it to the low minimum level, which is less than 600 calories.
Less than 600 calories a day.
Yeah. So you do it every other day. So that's another kind of intermittent fasting.
That can also be easy for a lot of people. You eat your regularly scheduled meals for today, and tomorrow it's like, okay, tomorrow is going to be a fruit day. So it's apples and berries and water. You will still be okay because you're getting some energy from those. But your regular sit-down meals, like your starchy foods and your meat and your soups or your chips, everything else you don't. You just do your fruits, and your calories become very low. You do it every other day in the week, you are going to also get a lot of benefit for blood sugar control. So it's very important that we also watch that. And I think that can be done by most people.
Right. Yeah. Every other day. So by the time that you are done with the low calorie day, the next day you are able to go back to normal. So consistently, you can do every other. Yeah.
And if you are really serious about reversing your diabetes and quick, on the days that you eat, you also avoid your sugars, avoid your starches, avoid your processed foods. You eat those foods we talked about, which are not processed, your greens, your fish, all those proteins that we discussed in our last video. If you do those when your regularly scheduled day is for eating, so you are eating healthy when you are eating, and then you are eating only fruits or maybe a little bit of energy source when you are fasting on the other days, trust me, you are going to turn your blood sugars around. They become stable. And not just that, all the other things will work out, including blood pressure and your weight loss. All right, so let's move on in the interest of time. The next one is early time restricted eating, which basically means that you eat all your meals within an earlier part of the day. Some people do it already, but they eat throughout. They start early and they finish late. That's where the problem is.
Because of the abundance of food in the house, right?
The temptation when you open the fridge, food is smiling. So pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me. And that is where the problems actually come from. But aside that, if we can be disciplined enough to time restrict our eating, then this will also work. So you are a morning eater. Some people are morning eaters. Some people, they wake up and the first thing is they got to put something. Yeah. It's okay. The nature. It's okay. All we are saying is that you got to stop also early. So you start early, you stop early, right? Yeah. And what you do is, say, for example, from 7, you start eating at 7 a.m. Okay, you have your breakfast, maybe some eggs and, some oatmeal or some other healthy meal. And then you have your lunch. But make sure that by 3 p.m., you have had your dinner.
Whoa.
Yes. Have your dinner. I know a person that is doing that. I don't even think they have diabetes, but they oh, actually I remember there was an old man who is I think he already turned 100, a doctor who turned 100. I saw him on YouTube, and that doctor's way of diet eating was to eat their last meal around 3 o'clock.
Wow.
And they don't eat again. They are not hungry, they just drink water and they sleep and wake up, and then they eat early. I think sometimes he even wakes up a little earlier to eat than 7. But the key is that by 3, no more food.
Earliest parts of the day.
Earliest parts of the day. This is the early restricted eating habit that you can also do. It's also a type of intermittent fasting. So you got to ask yourself, how is my eating pattern is? Do I like to eat early in the morning? If that's the case, then you can choose this. Some people too, they can go throughout the day until even 2 before they get hungry. Then you can use the other ones that we have already mentioned. Either the 16 by 8 or even make it less.
Right.
Maybe like 20 by 4, depends. It's a little harsh, right? Yeah, whatever it is, see where you are usually hungry and put your time of eating within that window. And then after that, you don't eat. And you're going to make it easier for you to reverse your high blood sugars, your hypertension, and all those other diseases that we actually face most of
Yeah,
the time.
so the 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., if you calculate that number of hours, it's 8 hours.
It's 8 hours.
So indirectly is what? The 16 by 8.
But you are
16 by
starting
8,
early.
But you are starting early. So if your body, if you want to eat early, it's likely that you have to go to bed early too.
Right.
Because
if your
3
dinner
p.m.
was 3, I'm pretty sure you shouldn't hang out past midnight or something like that, or
Yeah,
else you're going to
because
be
you go hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you are an early bird, maybe this is for you. And it makes sense too, because early part of the day is when you stay active.
Yes.
Right? You are going up and down, you're doing everything, so you're staying active. And that's when you are eating. So your body tends to use all the glucose that are coming in. Then when you are going to relax for the rest of the day, you don't need much to function. So you can take it easy and you will be all right because you are not putting in a lot of energy output out there.
And the key to also being all right is, to take it easy and distract yourself. Sometimes just even if you're not sleepy, watch a movie or read a book. If you just sit down, especially close to the kitchen, and other people come around, they are going to tempt you. So distract yourself, especially in the initial stages until your body adjusts. And then make sure that you can do it. And once you do it again consistently, you are going to reap the benefits. Trust me, if you do it and you see it, come back on this show or on this channel and let us know how you made out, because it's definitely it's proven. We are not making it up. It's proven. People have reversed their diabetes with this. People have reversed weight gain with this. People have stopped taking diabetes medication. The A1Cs have gone down. Their fasting blood glucose have gone down, even though they started at a very messy place. But because of consistently doing this practice, especially combining it with the right diet when they are eating, you are going to be able to do it.
Yep.
So yes, we challenge you to start.
Yeah, I think the last one is 24-hour fasting. That's the 1 meal a day.
1 meal a day.
I don't know how that is possible, but some
Some
people are
do it.
using
My,
that.
come on, a lot of people are doing
Yeah. So you eat only 1 meal a day, typically dinner, and you fast for the rest of the hours in the day. So you go about your business throughout the day, you don't eat anything, you come back and you sit down, you eat your dinner, and that's it for the day. So if you are able to adapt this one, some people can just go without food for a long time. Naturally or overall, they don't like eating. But when you are sitting for the dinner, you don't want to have this banquet or a whole lot of
Yeah,
food.
you're adding your
to
breakfast, your lunch, and your
everything
dinner
at a
together
you don't
because
want
you
to do
missed them.
that. So 1 meal a day is an option if you want to go a little harder.
Yes, and if you are able to do it over a long period, again, the promise is that you are going to reverse your diabetes or your high blood sugar levels. You are going to reverse it. The key is that make sure that when you are eating, you eat slowly. You break your fast easily. You don't eat 1 meal a day, because she's saying that typically you use your dinner, you start your 1 meal, and it is the dumpling that you are using. No, if you start off with the dumpling, you can hurt your stomach.
Right.
Because stomach has been closed all these hours. So in that case, you can start with the green tea, something healthy to open up your belly, and then eat the dinner so that it won't be, too harsh on your tummy. You don't want to get an ulcer because you're going to be doing this every day. Trust me. One day you can eat some harsh, spicy dinner, and that can be a problem. So you make sure that you break your fast with something while you are eating, and then you eat the heavy dinner after that. As much as you don't add sugar to a tea or coffee, it won't be considered two meals. Yeah, we say don't eat your breakfast and everything together. No, but if you are going to break that fast because you haven't eaten for the whole 24 hours, it's better to start with something very light, maybe a fruit, maybe a salad, something light. And I actually like my tea, hot tea, and let it take its time to open up all those closed gut, and then you eat slowly the harder or heavier meal
And less spicy
and
foods.
less
Right.
spicy foods so that you don't hurt yourself in that process of breaking your fast. So this is another very important. Now again, if you can repeat this over months, now studies have shown, up to one study we looked at says 12 weeks.
12 weeks.
If you can do
It's,
that,
3 months.
you are going to reverse your insulin, resistance or your type 2 diabetes. You're going to lose your healthy weight, and it's not that hard. This may be a little hard for people who haven't fasted ever, to do it, especially every day.
Right.
But again, if this is hard for you, you choose one that is not too hard. This is for somebody who is experienced in fasting. You can do this and they will be normal. It's nothing to them. All right.
Yeah, so this one will lead us to choosing the right schedule.
All right.
The effectiveness of an intermittent fasting schedule. It depends on the individual, like you're saying. So your preference, how your eating habit is. Are you someone that wake up in the morning and you start eating right, or you feel so hungry that you get up in the morning, all that you're thinking about is food?
Food.
So if you're such a person, then you can adapt the 7 a.m. to the 3 p.m. one. So it depends on your preference and how your body and your system works. And also your health goals. Are you pre-diabetic? Have you been diagnosed like your A1C is 6 and higher? Are you such a person and you want to reverse? You don't want to start the medication and be taking medication every day. You don't want to go to the point of managing the diabetes. You just want to reverse it.
Completely.
Yeah. So if you're such a person, then you have to know which one to pick. You have to be very serious and be consistent, and do it regularly, continuously, and you are going to see the results.
Consistency is key. And then the other thing is, while you do this, you also have to have a way of monitoring your blood sugar levels, especially if you're already diabetic and you want to see how well it works for you, or, because you may start off and feel like you can't continue. And the reason may be that your blood sugars fall too low at some point during your fast. So if you have a blood sugar monitor, that will tell you your sugar levels around the times that you have chosen, and see if it's going to work for you. You may have to just maybe pick a snack if it's too bad. In some times, it's okay. You're not pleasing any man. You want to be sure that you are alive, also, right? You don't want to collapse, have low sugar. We're going to talk about actually some of the things that you shouldn't or prevent you from doing intermittent fasting in the few slides to come. But we just want to say that you have to know yourself, and if you're already diagnosed with diabetes, make sure you are checking your blood sugar around the times that you are doing this, to make sure that you are in a safe way.
Yeah, and also if you're already diagnosed and you want to try this intermittent fasting, you have to consult with your doctor, consult with your healthcare provider before you jump into anything, because we want you to be safe. It's in your mind, you think this is a good one and you want to go all hard on it. We just want you to consult with your doctor and see which one will work best for you before you
Definitely.
pick any one.
Definitely. And then combine intermittent fasting with the healthy diabetic friendly diet. And again, we said a lot last week. Go back to our channel after this and look at those foods we also discussed. I mentioned some already, but suffice to say that going back to watch them after this will give you a full comprehensive list of the foods that you should eat, which in and of itself can help you reverse diabetes.
Right.
So if you add this to it, oh come on, man, you are going to shorten the period at which you reverse your type 2 diabetes or your high blood sugars. So make sure you combine the diet with it. Now, with that, we can also go to who shouldn't try intermittent fasting. Who shouldn't? It's not for everybody. So let's use this last few minutes to do that.
Yeah, so the first one that we want to talk about, people with type 1 diabetes.
People with type 1 diabetes.
So we are talking to people with type 2 to use this intermittent fasting. But if you're type 1, you shouldn't try or you shouldn't do the intermittent fasting. Now, even if you do intermittent fasting, you are monitoring your sugar and you know how your body works. You don't
Type
want to
1,
go,
you shouldn't even try at all because you need, you need glucose because you are injecting insulin all the time. You have no insulin.
Right.
And because you're injecting insulin all the time, you need to eat something to make sure that you don't drop because too much, if insulin is there and there's no glucose, you can drop with low blood sugar. So type 1, you shouldn't even try.
Yeah, but overall, we all intermittently fast. We sleep, right?
Right.
There. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. So, but you don't want to do the one a day or going too long without glucose. So this is not definitely recommended for type 1 diabetes.
The next group of people who shouldn't do intermittent fasting is people who are pregnant or maybe breastfeeding. Pregnant women and breastfeeding women should not intermittently fast. So if you can do it before you get pregnant, but when you get pregnant, you stop. And then you just use the dietary ways to reverse blood sugars for reversing high blood sugar levels. Maybe in your first pregnancy, you had diabetes, gestational diabetes, and so you want to make sure that you don't get it again. Follow the diet principle that we showed you in our last video.
Right.
But you cannot use intermittent fasting. The reason being that you are not just feeding yourself, you're also feeding the baby in you. Or if you are breastfeeding, you are not just feeding yourself, you're also having to produce breast milk to feed the person who is dependent on the breast. And so you cannot intermittently fast if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. So during those periods, you can pause. And then as soon as you're finished, you can go back to it.
Yeah. And also people that have problem with hypoglycemia, like
Low sugar.
So if you are monitoring your sugar and realize that it's not stable, almost every time it's on, it's high, it's low, it means that your blood sugar levels are not stabilized. So we wouldn't recommend intermittent fasting because we don't want you to go low sugar and collapse or faint. So you have to know where you are with the levels. If you want to know, you can test and see where you are before you start intermittent.
And also working with your doctor too. And we'll let you know if you want to do it really bad and your doctor says, no, your sugars must be stable. Stable means that, along the day, the safety is there. It's not like up, down, like, that is not good because what if you don't eat and it goes down again? Then there's a problem.
Right.
So basically work with your doctor and use the monitors that you have also to give you more information. And make sure, again, if you are already being treated for hypoglycemia, you do not start it at all. Make sure your levels are on point before you do it because you want to use intermittent fasting to lower your blood sugar. So if it is lower already, then you don't want to do it, right? Yes. Or if you don't know whether it's even stable enough, today is up, tomorrow is down, tomorrow is down, the next day is up, then you can tell how it will be when you don't eat. So stabilize it first. Then after that, approach this safely with the right kind of diet and you should be fine.
Yeah, and we don't encourage intermittent fasting with people with history of eating disorders. People that
Have bulimias,
because you don't want to trigger anything. Because if you have a history of not having a regular eating pattern, it's likely that if you start the intermittent fasting, you are going to get back to it. Because some people have this thing that they eat, they put the hand in the throat and puke everything out. They have this disorder that is around. You don't want to trigger that. So if you are such a person, I think this one is not for you.
Yes, as bulimia people, right? Do not do that. And then also, if you have chronic diseases, for example, you have a kidney disease or liver disease or heart disease, you don't want to do intermittent fasting. You can do the diet portion of using diet to reverse blood sugars.
Right.
That is the one for you. If you have been diagnosed with heart disease, you need some amount of calories all throughout the day. Even the medications you take may not permit you
Right.
to be not eating for long hours like 16 or 10 that we are all recommending here. So you definitely need to make sure that you don't have any one of those. And that's not the end of it. You have another option in the diet, the dietary way of reversing type 2 diabetes or high blood sugars, which again is in this the previous video. We're going to make sure that we link that video at the end of this video so that if you need to watch that too, you can see that in case for some reason you can do intermittent fasting. Then the next one.
Yeah, so people with high stress levels, if you are going through a stressful situation, but like losing a loved one or your job, something very stressful, already you don't feel like eating, so you don't want to do add
Intermittent
on
fasting,
to
okay.
it, to cause all that stress. Even if you have lost somebody, sometimes you don't even feel like eating. You don't even have the appetite to eat. So such a person, we don't encourage this intermittent fasting. And those people with sleep disorders, you sleep just an hour or two and you get up, you don't want to go to bed hungry. Yeah, so this may not be good
That's
for
kind of
you.
like a stress in itself, right?
Yeah.
If you have sleep disorders and you have high stress levels, you have to eat a normal diet. You cannot do intermittent fasting. And I think the other one is if you are taking some medications that affect, your blood sugars. Those medications, like we can give a few examples, like you're taking glimepiride
Glipizide.
or glipizide
Right.
or glyburide
Or the glides.
or any of they may not even come in the same name we are saying, but if your diabetes medication is such that it makes you hypoglycemic or it makes your blood sugar go down, then you cannot take it when you are not eating. As a matter of fact, your medication would say take it with meals or take it after you eat or take it just before you eat. It means that you cannot take that medication and be fasting.
Right.
So in and of itself, it's telling you that you cannot do intermittent fasting with that medication. I think it makes
It does.
yeah, it makes
That's
sense.
why we
Right?
encourage you to work with your doctor,
Yes.
before you start it, so that you know the type of medication that you're taking, whether you have to do it alongside with the intermittent fasting or not.
Or not. All right. So now let's start one study and then we're going to close. One study to back our point about the fact that you can reverse your type 2 diabetes with intermittent fasting. There's a study in 2021 called Cell Metabolism study, which focused it focused on how time restricted eating impacts your metabolic health, especially for type 2 diabetes, and the method they use is that you want to continue on.
Yeah, so the people that took part in the study were pre-diabetics and type 2 diabetics. So they followed them up and make sure that they are doing this intermittent fasting schedule, eating all your meals within 10-hour window and fasting for the rest of the hours, which is the 14 hours. So they were using the 14 hour at the 14 by 10 method, So this is the study that they did. They followed these people. They were already diabetics and they were pre-diabetics. And after 12 weeks, they found out that those who were restricted, the kind of food, the time frame that they were asked to eat when they eat, and the time that they were not supposed to eat, they stopped. Within 12 weeks, it was found that their insulin sensitivity improved. It got better. They were able to absorb the energy from the glucose, right? Much more better than people that did not do it. And they lowered their fasting glucose levels too. And that promoted fat loss and the insulin sensitivity increased.
Definitely. So that's a huge backing to what we said, right? And this one is a least the least serious kind of intermittent fasting.
Yes.
This is the 10-hour window. You're eating for 10 hours and the rest of the and fasting for 14. You know, because people are doing 8 hours and fasting for 16. People are doing every other day fasting. You know, those are even more serious. So if your diabetes is really bad, that's probably where you want to go. But this is working. So if you can do those and you even do the 10 by 14 or 14 by 10, however you say it, then it's good, right? Because you are making all the benefits right there. It means that, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the benefits of intermittent fasting, okay, extend beyond weight loss. It's not just for you to lose weight. It also address type 2 diabetes. So if you have this condition and you try this intermittent fasting, not only do you lose weight, your insulin become more sensitive.
More sensitive. Your diabetes may go away.
Right.
In
Remission.
in simple terms, your diabetes may go away. Trust me, the studies have shown it. Even in 12 weeks. So imagine they do it for 1 year. You know, the A1C, which is a measure of their blood glucose levels for the entire 3 months measure, it goes down. Like she said earlier on, from 6 to maybe to 5, which is almost not, I mean, 5 is normal.
Yeah.
So if you can do it consistently over a long period, and once it works, you don't stop. Because like we said in last week, if you stop, the diabetes can come back, right?
It comes back,
You are in remission, so you keep doing what you have to do to make sure that you stay in the remission period. But the key thing is starting. Some people cannot start. Some people prolong, procrastinate things, and I'll do it, and they don't. Every pie, every cake they want to taste it. And if you are doing intermittent fasting, you got to be disciplined. You're not going to be doing that, right?
Yeah, so if like you go to work and they have food everywhere, and if you are fasting,
They buy the pizzas in boxes.
all the junk foods will be around you. The more you do it, you get used to. It become part of you. It become a habit. It's something that you build over a period of time. But if you don't start at all, you don't get anywhere, and you realize that your diabetes is not being managed, and the end stage is not pleasant. So it's something that you have to take seriously.
All right. Now the next thing we are concluding actually. So I got a question for you. So can intermittent fasting help reverse type 2 diabetes? If you are watching, or if you watch later, you should be able to answer the question, right? And for me, the answer is a hopeful yes.
Hopeful
A
yes.
hopeful yes. Why? A hopeful yes. But the big emphasis is on doing it the right way. That's it. That's the key. If you do it the right way with consistency and seriousness, adding the diet, making sure the times you are eating are also, you're eating the healthy stuff. Oh, quickly. It won't take long. And people who don't even do the healthy stuff, just eating within the windows that they specify, they still get a benefit.
Right.
But I don't want you to just stay there and say that, okay, I'm going to eat my junk still, but I'm not going to eat 2 hours a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a start. But
That's a start, but we
enough.
think you can do it because we want you to completely get rid of high blood sugar, your hypertension, and all those things, right? So the journey to
Inflammation, joint
better,
pain. Yep.
inflammation and joint pain, all those that come with all these inflammatory issues with high blood sugar. So the journey to a better health starts with the small, consistent changes that you make today. Whether it's adjusting your eating schedule or making smarter food choices or even prioritizing exercise, you hold the power to transform your health. And that is what we want you to believe in.
Yeah, so remember, you don't have to do this alone. There is a community of support, and we are here to guide every step of the way.
My goodness.
So if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it thumbs up and share with someone who could benefit from this
Oh,
information.
my goodness.
So let's spread the word.
Let's spread the
and
word.
help more people take
Oh my
control
goodness. Let's
of their
spread the
health.
word. Let's spread the word and help people. You may not be diabetic. You're watching, somebody in the family who is struggling. Send a video to them. Share it with them, right? And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, or hit the follow button wherever you're watching us from. I ask you to hit that button and also turn on the notification so that whenever we go live, you won't miss any of the episodes that we